Good morning, students. We were doing the essay on National Prejudices by Oliver Goldsmith. Now, in this essay, Oliver Goldsmith discusses in detail what national prejudices we have as general citizens. He relates an incident and he tells that what happened once he met a group of people. They all were discussing about different characteristics, about different character traits of of several countries of Europe. And one gentleman, he declared that the Dutch were greedy, the French were flatterers, the Germans were alcoholic, and the Spaniards were arrogant, they were proud, they were haughty. And he declared that English, they were merciful, they were brave, and they were generous. So this opinion was accepted by everyone except Oliver Goldsmith. So he avoided answering this question. He avoided because, according to Oliver Goldsmith, this opinion was not true. This was the prejudice which people have for themselves. So, actually, Oliver Goldsmith avoided, and he thought it to be better not to answer, not to give his opinion regarding this matter. So the text is, but my pseudo patriot had no mind to let me escape so easily. Not satisfied that his opinion should pass without contradiction, he was determined to have it ratified by the suffrage of everyone in the company, for which purpose, addressing himself to me with an air of inexpressible confidence, he asked me if I was not in the same way of thinking. The pseudo patriot was the gentleman who declared that English excelled in all and English were the best from the rest of the countries of Europe. So, because Oliver Goldsmith was avoiding this question, so he says that, but that false patriot, that gentleman, he decided to get the answer. He decided that his opinion should be admitted by everyone in the group. Okay. He was determined to have it rectified, to have it ratified means to confirmed by the suffrage of everyone, suffrage to vote, everyone in the company. So, because Goldsmith didn't answer, he asked him directly that what does Oliver Goldsmith think about his opinion, about his statement. As I am never forward in giving my opinion, especially I if I have reasons to believe that it will not be agreeable. So when I am obliged to give it, I always hold it for a maxim to speak my real sentiments. So Oliver Goldsmith says that if if my views are not similar, if my views are contrary to the other person, then I choose to stay calm, to stay quiet, because I think that my views will not be received positively. So that's why it's always better to remain silent. If your views are different, if you think contrary, then Oliver Goldsmith say that it's always to stay quiet. But if someone pushes you, if someone demands an answer, then Oliver Goldsmith say it's always better to relate it, to say it in the form of a maxim. I therefore told him that for my own part I should not have ventured to talk in such a peremptory strain unless I had made the tour of Europe and examined the manners of these several nations with great care and accuracy, that perhaps a more impartial judge would not scruple to affirm that the Dutch were more frugal and industrious, the French more temperate and polite, the Germans more hardy and patient of labor and fatigue, and the Spaniards were more staid and sedate than the English, who, though undoubtedly brave and generous, were at the same time rash, headstrong, impetuous, too apt to be elated with prosperity, and too despondent in adversity. So, what Oliver Goldsmith tells this gentleman is that how can you make a judgment of these different kind of people of these different countries. He says that I have not visited these countries, so I can't tell it. I can't be 100% sure of their qualities, जहाँ पे हम गए ही नहीं हैं, जहाँ पे हम रहे नहीं हैं, जिन लोगों से हम मिले नहीं हैं, उन लोगों के बारे में बोलने के उन लोगों के बारे में 100% एक्यूरेसी से बोलना गलत होगा। ओके, स्पेन गए नहीं और स्पेन के लोगों के बारे में बोल दे कि वो लोग ऐसे होते हैं, फ्रांस गए नहीं और वहाँ के लोगों के बारे में पहले ही ये नोशन दे दिया कि वो लोग ऐसे होते हैं। सो ऑलिवर गोल्डस्मिथ सेज दैट इट इज़ नॉट proper. Okay, I have not visited these countries, so I'm not sure that what people of such a such country is like. But he says that if to talk in general, if what I have heard, what I have concluded, so Oliver Goldsmith says that according to my opinion, what I have heard, what and according to my views, I think that uh, I think that the Dutch or the Netherlands, people of Netherlands, were more frugal and industrious. Dutch, they were more economic, they were more hardworking. The French, they were more temperate, they were more calm, and they were polite. The Germans, they were more hardworking, they were more patient, and the Spaniards, they were more serious, they were more peaceful. And to talk about the English, although the gentleman declared that they were brave and generous, Oliver Goldsmith also accepts that yes, it is true, the English are indeed brave and generous, but they also have some defects. And the defects are that they are too rash, they are rude, they are eccentric, they think or they are impetuous, they are harsh, they become happy too easily. In prosperity, they become happy, and in despair, in adversity, they become despondent. So in a way, they don't know how to how to make balance in their lives. So in this way, Oliver Goldsmith actually attempted actually he pointed out defects in the English. So the result was that I could easily perceive that all of the company began to regard me with a jealous eye before I had finished my answer, which I had no sooner done than the patriotic gentleman observed with a contemptuous sneer that he was greatly surprised how some people could have the conscience to live in a country which they did not love and enjoy the protection of a government to which in their hearts they were inveterate enemies. Now, of course, जैसे ओलिवर गोल्डस्मिथ ने अपना ये रिएक्शन दिया, अपना ये ऑब्जर्वेशन दिया, ओलिवर गोल्डस्मिथ कहते हैं कि अ, ये सही है कि इंग्लिश जो है, ये जो लोग हैं इंग्लैंड के, वो ब्रेव ज़रूर होते हैं, वो मर्सीफुल ज़रूर होते हैं, लेकिन एट द सेम टाइम वो थोड़े सनकी भी होते हैं, और वो प्रॉस्पेरिटी में, हैप्पी टाइम्स में कुछ ज़्यादा ही बहुत जल्दी खुश हो जाते हैं, और मुसीबत आते ही वो बहुत जल्दी अपना आपा खो देते हैं। सो दे डोंट नो हाउ टू बैलेंस, बैलेंस उनके लाइफ में नहीं होता। तो ये कहते ही ऑफ कोर्स जो ग्रुप था, जो जेंटलमैन थे, उन लोगों को ये जो व्यू है वो पसंद नहीं आया। ओके, एंड इट इज़ ट्रू, वी कांट एक्सेप्ट आवर वीकनेसेस। सो as soon as he made this statement, as soon as Oliver Goldsmith declared, he noticed that the people were observing him with deep hatred, and they all were looking, and in fact, those people, they all considered him to be they all considered him to be anti-nationalistic. Okay, they told him that how you can even live in a country like this. If you don't love your country, then why you are living in it, why you are enjoying benefits of this government, if you think that people of this country are not good. Okay, so वो जो जेंटलमैन था उसने डायरेक्टली कह दिया ओलिवर गोल्डस्मिथ को कि मुझे ये समझ में नहीं आता कि कुछ लोग ऐसी कंट्री में रह कैसे कैसे रह सकते हैं जिस कंट्री को वो पसंद ही नहीं करते हैं, और यहाँ की गवर्नमेंट के ये जो फ़ायदे हैं वो कैसे वो लोग उठा रहे हैं, जबकि अपने मन में वो एक तरह से उस देश के दुश्मन होते हैं. ओके, where were we? Finding that by this moderate declaration of my sentiments, I had forfeited the good opinion of my companions and given them occasion to call my political principles in question, and well knowing that it was in vain to argue with men who were so very full of themselves. So Oliver Goldsmith decided to again stay calm, to stay quiet, because Oliver Goldsmith knew that it was useless to argue with such kind of people who are filled with these false patriotic ideals of their country. Oliver Goldsmith को लगा कि ऐसे लोगों के साथ ये बात डिस्कस करना बेकार है, जो लोग ट्रू वैल्यू नहीं समझते हैं पेट्रोइटिज्म की, जिन लोगों को नेशनलिज्म का मतलब नहीं पता होता है, उन लोगों के सामने ये बातें डिस्कस करने का कोई मतलब नहीं है. सो आई थ्रू डाउन माई रेकनिंग एंड आई रिटायर्ड टू माई ओन लॉजिंग्स, रिफ्लेक्टिंग ऑन द एब्सर्ड एंड ridiculous nature of national prejudice and prepossession. So Oliver Goldsmith paid down his bill and he came to his own room, and he reflected on this absurd, and he reflected on whole the incident, and he thought that why people are full of these false notions, why people think that their country is the best, and why they don't accept their weaknesses. Okay, so he reflected on this incident. Among all the famous sayings of antiquity, there is none that has greater honor to the author or affords greater pleasure to the reader than that of the philosopher who, being asked what countryman he was, replied that he was a citizen of the world. Now you have to notice. Now this philosopher, he uh, regards he tells about the philosopher, and he says that there was a philosopher, and a person asked that philosopher that he belonged to which country, and in answer he replied that he belonged to no country because he considered this whole world to be his home. He considered himself to be the citizen of the world. His nationalism was not divided. His feelings were not divided, or he was not obsessed with the idea of true or false nationalism. Now Oliver Goldsmith asks this question to us: how few there are to be found in modern times who can say the same, or whose conduct is consistent with such a profession. We are now become so much Englishman, Frenchman, Dutchman, Spaniards, or Germans that we are no longer citizens of the world, so much the natives of one particular spot, members of one petty society, that we no longer consider ourselves as the general inhabitants of the globe or members of that grand society which comprehends the whole humankind. Okay, so Oliver Goldsmith really asks this question, that we call ourselves cosmopolitan, we call we think that this world is our home, or we focus on globalization, but do we actually rely on all these concepts? Do we actually believe it is not true? We have become so much, we think of our own country, we think of our own community, we are too partial, and first of all we think good of only uh, we think good of only us. We don't find good things in others. That's why Oliver Goldsmith says that दुनिया में ऐसे कितने लोग बचे हैं जो कि सच में ये सोचते हैं कि हम स्पेनियार्ड्स नहीं है या इस कम्युनिटी के नहीं हैं, हम इंग्लिश नहीं, हम फ्रेंच नहीं है। कितने लोग ऐसे होंगे जो मानते होंगे कि हम सिटीजन ऑफ द वर्ल्ड है, या ये जो पूरी कंट्री है, ये जो पूरा ग्लोब है, वो ही हमारा घर है। ऐसे लोग बहुत कम हैं, या हम बोल सकते हैं नेग्लिजिबल हैं। Okay, so Oliver Goldsmith really asks these questions, that we no longer consider ourselves as the general inhabitant of the globe because we are prejudiced with this narrow nationalism. We don't think ourselves to be the citizen of the world, and we only find flaws in others, whereas we think ourselves to be best. This is the narrow nationalism, this is the false tendency, and Oliver Goldsmith in this essay really questions this tendency of people. He urges people to come out of this narrow mentality and to accept this world, to accept the whole community, to accept the whole humankind as your true home. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you.